All right, we ready? All right, we'll call the August 20th, 2025 Sugar Land 4B Corporation meeting to order. Any public comments?
No one signed up.
Okay, we'll close the public comment section. We'll do the consideration and action of the minutes of July 16th, 2025 Sugar Land 4B Corporation meeting and the August 5th, 2025 Sugar Land Development Corporation and Sugar Land 4B Corporation joint meeting. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes? Second. All right. Vote.
Yes.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Now we'll move over to John. We'll the review and discussion of the purpose, roles, responsibilities, the functions of the Sugar Land 4B Corporation.
Before John gets started, it's customary for us to introduce new staff. I know at a few meetings ago, we pointed out that we hired Emily Pollard, but she's actually going to be presenting to you today. So I just wanted to give you a little background on her. So Emily serves as our communications manager for the Department of Redevelopment. She joined us February of this year. She came from the City of Frisco Economic Development Corporation. Her husband relocated here. Emily's responsible for crafting and implementing strategic communication plans that engage Sugar Land residents and stakeholders of redevelopment initiatives and opportunities. She also works with our PR consultant on PR strategies related to redevelopment priorities. She ensures our branding stays consistent and cohesive, oversees social media posts, department web pages, and more. She's responsible for the lapel pens and the QR code you have in front of you. So please put those on. In addition to a bachelor's degree in mass communications from Sam Houston, Emily brings over 6 years of expertise in journalism, public relations, and economic development marketing. Emily has brought a wealth of knowledge to us. Her first week was the week we either announced Imperial or acquired Imperial, so she hit the ground running, and she's still with us. So we're not. So with that, I'll turn that over to John and Emily. Thank you.
Having Sugar Land 4B Board of Directors, today we'll be doing our orientation, our annual orientation, and we've revamped the presentation, so I hope it's much more exciting than last year. We'll be talking about the Sugar Land 4B Corporation, its role, history, responsibilities, impact, and your role as board members, that per usual. In front of you, we've actually included, this is new, a one-pager with a list of projects funded by the SL4B since its incorporations in 1995. We tried to make it a one-pager, but it's actually a four-pager because there's just so many projects that the 4B Corporation has funded. And quite frankly, it's very interesting. Highly recommend you look through it while I present. There's also a few physical copies of the orientation binder that was sent to you electronically via email, which includes key documents such as our bylaws, the state statutes governing our corporations, key budget documents, and more. And if there's one key takeaway that we want you to remember, it's this. Sugar Land's Economic Development Corporations create wealth, enduring value, and a legacy that continues to shape our community for generations. As you can see by some of the projects on that one page. And you'll see more throughout this presentation as well. First, let's talk about the background of EDCs in Texas. You can't talk about EDCs without talking about primary jobs and economic development and the economic development impact cycle. So I'll start with there. It all starts with primary jobs. And so what are primary jobs? The comptroller defines primary jobs as companies and jobs or jobs from companies which export products or services externally to regional, statewide, national, or international markets, which infuse new dollars into the economy. I want you to think of three key examples from Sugar Land in the 1950s, 80s, and 90s. Fluor, Schlumberger, Champion Technologies, formerly known as Champion X, now SLB. These were large corporate companies that established themselves in Sugar Land in the 20th centuries. And they brought in primary jobs. Maybe some of you came here to Sugar Land because of some of these companies, right? And these large corporations. As people started to relocate closer to their jobs, come to Sugar Land, this created the demand for new housing, places to live, right? And when people moved to new housing and new master plan communities such as Sugar Creek, which developed at this time too, those people need to eat something, right? They need to go to a grocery store, they need services. And so a lot of those new retailers came as a result of that new housing and that population boom that happened in the 80s and 90s, right? And all of that generates a bunch of new sales tax, new property tax, and all of that kind of money that comes from those taxes get reinvested into quality of life amenities. It funds your police, your fire, your recycling, your garbage, all of that stuff that is our city services, right? And that quality of life that's created through that reinvested money gets reinvested and makes people want to come to Sugar Land, right? And so economic development is important, and the Texas legislature really thought it was important too when they passed the Development Corporation Act of 1979, which allowed for cities to fund economic and community development through EDCs. And so EDCs like ours are governed by three main chapters in the local government code, chapters 501, 504, and 505. And these documents, which are included in your binder, govern what are eligible projects, what can our EDCs fund, right? Cities can either establish a type A or a type B corporation. We have both, based on the type of sales tax approved by voters. And type B corporations are typically overseen by a 7-member board, as well as city council. They usually work closely with that. 39% of Texas cities have formed type B corporations. You'll see a map of all those major cities right here. And you're probably wondering, why only 39%? That doesn't seem like a lot. A lot of cities actually sometimes they only form type A corporations, but you have to also remember that Texas is a really big state. There are a lot of small towns and cities throughout Texas that might not have the administrative staff to run a corporation, right? You need administration, you need economic developers to use the sales tax money for projects, right? And you might have recalled too that you need voter approval for these corporations to form in the first place. And so you have to have that political willpower too for your citizens to vote for this tax to be incorporated. These nonprofits can collect up to actually a 0.5 cent sales tax dedicated to funding economic development. And in 2024, type B corporations all throughout Texas accrued over $1 billion in sales tax revenue, according to the state comptroller. And I'm going to talk more about like what type of projects type B corporations can fund, type B projects. So that's on this slide. Now, you might recall that here at the City of Sugar Land, we have the Sugar Land Development Corporation. That's our type A corporation, as well as the Sugar Land 4B corporation. That's our type B corporation. Our 4B tax, and that's governed by the SL4B, we can fund all projects on this kind of slide right here. So type A and type B. Our Sugar Land Development Corporation, our type A corporation, can only fund type A projects. And so you'll see a kind of a pattern here. Type A projects are typically more industrial, more focused on primary employment corporations. And so type A sales tax can be used to fund land, buildings, equipment, and those types of expenditures for manufacturing and industrial, infrastructure improvements, research and development facilities, aviation facilities. Well, type B projects are more focused on the quality of life, right? You have sports and athletic facilities, tourism, public parks, streets, roads, and related improvements, general and municipally owned improvements. So there's a wide range of projects here that are that the state allows type A and type B sales tax to be used for. And one kind of important distinction to make here is you'll see a pattern in this packet right here of all the projects that we funded, that a lot of these are parks and quality of life. And the reason that we do that as a city is because legally this is like what we can fund. And the Sugar Land Development Corporation can fund a lot of these parks and quality of life projects, which is why we decided to use from a strategic kind of budget standpoint, type B funding for these types of projects. And so now for the really exciting stuff, the history, right? Sugar Land voters approved the 4A and 4B corporations in 1993 and 1995 respectively. And it should be noted that less than 10% of Texas cities have both a type A and type B corporation. Our 4B corporation is funded by a 1/4 cent sales tax. So that's what voters approved back then. And that's for economic and development projects. And since 1995, the 4B has generated over 143 million in revenue. And I actually pulled an excerpt from of the Fort Bend County Historical Commission. They interviewed our former city manager, Alan Bogart, who was with us for a long time, and he talks more about like why these corporations were created. He says that there were decisions made by the council. They put proposals before the voters to establish our 4A and 4B corporations, and those two corporations generated a significant amount of revenue that allowed the city to conduct an extremely aggressive economic development program. It results in a great deal of new value being added to the tax rolls from the commercial side, new sales tax revenues coming in from the development of the Sugar Land Business Park, the mall, and other big retailers that retail centers that developed along Highway 59. So that's a little bit more about maybe what City Council was thinking back then, right? When they proposed this to voters. From a budgetary impact, from a city standpoint, sales tax and property tax make up most of our revenues. And so what I really wanted to hit on here is that these voters and our city council back in 1995 made a huge strategic decision to earmark a section of our sales tax for economic development, and it has left a legacy of amazing projects that impact your everyday life today. And yeah, I'll kind of go through some of those projects right now. Very high level, this will be quick. Constellation Field, this was funded in about 2011, and this was mainly funded through 4B sales tax revenue bonds, right? No general fund dollars were used on this project. You know, the city owns the stadium, the Astros run it, and this brings in so much new wealth and tourism to our city every single baseball game, right? Sugarland Town Square, you know, a lot of the infrastructure such as the parking garage and roads were originally funded by the Sugarland 4B Corporation back in the early 2000s, right? And we recently, you as board members, approved a 12.5 million incentive as part of a strategic partnership with the Town Square ownership. There's a lot of art improvements throughout town. I included one of my favorites on Brook Street Bridge, that mosaic that you might have seen. I also wanted to touch on Highway US 90, 59, and Highway 6. In this this history of projects, you know, there's projects such as addition of new lanes, the street widening, detention ponds, beautification. All of these improvements that have funded our major and improved our major roadways have made this infrastructure a lot better, right? And having good infrastructure and good roads is important for people to want to do business in your city, right? A lot of these major corridors are connected to the Sugarland Business Park and make us an ideal place to do business, which is why we invest so much into that. Some more projects right here. First Colony Mall, the Lifestyle Center, which is that outside part that was supported by the SL4B. The softball field, the land underneath the field, and the field itself is funded through the SL4B. You can see some of the infrastructure right here in this historical image. The Houston Museum of Natural Science included a lot of really cool placemaking and park improvements here to the pump track. We have our fund grant, which is a grant offered to our community organizations to do community projects. New Territory did a teenager playground. Lots of our civic arts program is also funded through 4B dollars. And then finally, on my last slide before I pass it on to Emily, these projects are huge, right? Like, for example, the festival site, where we funded that, we bring in so many events that bring in so much outside tourism through the improvements made at this park every single year. And same for the conference center that was built alongside Sugarland Town Square. Lake Point Green, you know, the 4B funded the kind of incentivized the purchase of that civic space in Parkland as part of that development. And most importantly, in my opinion, the 4B also funded a lot of the debt that funded the Imperial Historic District acquisition of that. So those are examples of 4B projects. Before I pass it on to Emily, the reason that we're talking about marketing, PR, and communications in this presentation is you got to pay to play as an EDC. Every EDC is marketing themselves, putting themselves out there, trying to attract business, attract developers, and marketing is a huge part of that. So I'll pass it on to Emily.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Emily Pollard. I am the communications manager for the Department of Redevelopment. You may be thinking, why does the Department of Redevelopment need its own communications manager? But as I'm sure you can tell from this point in the presentation, there are a lot of programs, projects, and initiatives that our team leads in the SL4B funds. And it is important to make sure that the community and prospects and future participants of all of these things are informed. And so to start with our communications plans on major projects, for an example, using Imperial here, this is a major priority for the city, and that is why it is so important to make sure that we have transparency and community involvement when going through major projects like this. And so we wanted to make sure that the community and stakeholders, developers, all of those people were informed. So from the very beginning, we announced the intent to acquire through a series of press releases, and then the announcement once the city council approved that plan, and then another one when we purchased the property in June. We also manage project web pages. So we have the Imperial redevelopment specific project web page. We also have one for Lake Point redevelopment. That's where we keep current status, timelines, frequently asked questions, reports, links to agendas, and public meeting recordings. We also have the opportunity for a newsletter sign up where people can go if they specifically want information on that project. It shows up right in their email when they sign up there. We also have the opportunity for people to share their stories, so we make sure that we're capturing that. And then we also link to all those press releases so they don't miss it once it hits the press one time. It's there for them to refer back to. We also have social media channels where we are communicating frequently with project updates. We have a very large audience of developers, more business focused audience on that channel. So it's a great place to leverage those connections. And then we also work very closely with the city's communications department and collaborate with them to not only create content, but share content to residents specifically through our city's flagship Facebook page, Nextdoor, and Instagram pages. And then we do have the newsletter, which I mentioned earlier, which is where we have our listserv of people that are specifically interested in those project updates. And there we do share updates as they're made available, as well as the Imperial stories that we're collecting, which is where people will share their memories and hopes for the project going forward. And then event recaps, such as the Centennial Celebration on the right here, which you can see photos of, and then opportunities that are coming down the line for people to continue to stay involved. I wanted to touch on our public relations as well. So we have a public relations agency that we share the cost of with the Visit Sugarland and Sugarland Economic Development Corporation. And so they help us with media pitches, media relations, writing press releases, making sure all of those things are distributed and accurately covered. And so this is just a small snapshot of some of the work that they have done so far. This is specifically on Imperial redevelopment acquisition related coverage. And so with that, out of the local, regional, national, and industry specific publications that have covered the news of those 3 press releases that I mentioned earlier, we had a 29 million reach, meaning unique monthly visitors for those publications. And that is an estimated earned media value of $131,000, which actually is worth more than their entire contract up to this point. And I mean, as a whole, not even just the part that we fund as the SL4B. And so with this, it helps us drive coverage and then gauge community sentiment. With Zen City, which is a platform that the city has and we're able to use, we're able to gauge the way that the community is reacting to this news. And 93% has been positive, 6% is neutral, and 1% negative. So it does indicate a very strong community support, regardless of a couple of very loud voices that you may see here and there. It's really important to have this type of data to be able to back our understanding. And then, so here's a high-level overview of our marketing and key expenditures. I'm sure you noticed as the largest bucket of our operational budget, our marketing and public relations takes up a big portion of that. And so it's very important, as John mentioned earlier, because it is pay to play in the marketing or in the economic development space. We not only want to be an attractive place for people to want to come and do their business, but also as we're in this environment of redeveloping, we want to make sure that people are aware of the awesome things that we have here and that we're not just aging, and we still have these great opportunities and are adapting and moving forward. So hence the ready for something sweeter branding that you'll see here at the bottom, and we'll get into that more in a future meeting and sort of our campaign that we're rolling out with that. But key expenditures here include our public relations agency, which I mentioned, advertising and signage, event sponsorships, photography and videography and design services. We also recently rolled out a new economic development website. And then we also use strategically branded items such as these up here on the top right for key opportunities. And then here is just an overview of some of the ways that we promote our programs. John had mentioned the Fund Grant and Great Homes programs, also our Retail Refresh Grant, which we were in the process of rebranding. It was previously the Commercial Revitalization Grant, and then also some of the SL4B improvement projects. This is a great example of our videographer, photographer, and graphic design work, and then also the way that we leverage social media to help share that story and market that. And so I will pause here before I get into some of the more business stuff to see if you have any questions on our marketing items. Okay, so to get into more of your roles as board members, Your responsibilities are very important. You have the authority under state law to approve our budget and projects, tax expenditures, financial transactions, purchasing, and even evoke eminent domain. All meetings are held monthly on the third Wednesday of each month at 4 p.m. here at City Hall. And budget workshops typically take place in July, followed by board approval in August, and then city council approval in September, which is coming up on September 16th. And additionally, officer elections typically take place in December. To be a member, you must be a Sugar Land resident, and a quorum of at least 4 board members is necessary to conduct business as usual. So you're allowed 3 consecutive absences or up to 3 consecutive absences equals automatic resignation. So it's important to be here. Our board is structured as a 7-member a group of 7 members appointed by city council. Board members serve 2-year terms and can serve a maximum of 3 consecutive terms. Board president and vice president positions are elected annually. Again, officer elections will be coming up in December. And as far as operations and oversight, we follow the Texas Open Meetings and Public Information Acts, and we're guided by the Sugar Land City Council's direction and policies. We're structured with a city manager operating as the general manager, and the city provides staffing, admin, legal, and financial services, i.e. all of us in the room today. And we are, as I mentioned, the board adopts the budget annually, which you will consider later today. And then the city council approval is also required. That will take place next month during the September 16th council meeting, and all expenditures are approved by the board via resolution, and public hearings and legal notices are required for projects. There are 4 required trainings as board members. You're required to attend Open Meetings Act training, Public Information Act training, ethics training, and new member orientation, which you are completing right now, so you can check that one off your list. Ethics training will be conducted by a member of our legal team later this year during a regularly scheduled board meeting. So that one will be coming. And then there are 2 recommended trainings that are optional, but we definitely recommend. There is BEDC, which is Basic Economic Development course. It's a 4-day course which happens twice a year, and that covers all the fundamentals of economic development, such as real estate, business, workforce, marketing, managing economic development organizations, financing, and strategy. I attended this conference in June. I've been in economic development for a couple years now, and I took away so many things. So I highly recommend it. There were city managers in attendance. There were board members, council members. So not only was it a great place to learn, but I also had some great networking opportunities there, and would definitely recommend it. It was a great place to learn. And then also there's the sales tax workshop. That is a 1-day course, which the next one is coming up in Houston in November. And that's for type A and B board members and local officials. And it covers legal updates, project types, best practices, and it also includes certification on the 2 other required trainings that you have, the Open Meetings Act and Public Information Act. So if you attend that one, you can knock out the other 2 required trainings. And with that, I will just wrap up with the takeaway John mentioned earlier, which is that over the last 30 years, the SL4B has driven a lot of economic growth, wealth, and quality of life into the city. And you as board members have a major impact in what helps us make that possible. And so with that, I will close out. Do you have any questions?
All right, John and Emily, thank you. And again, welcome to the team.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on now. Consideration of an action on amending the fiscal year 2025 budget to projections, adoption of the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget, and a recommendation of the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget to the members of City Council. Justin Maharado will take us through it, and I'll just comment on everybody. Just remember, please hold your questions till he finishes the presentation, then we'll hit him with questions. Thanks.
All righty, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here this afternoon. As mentioned, today we'll be covering the fiscal year 25 projections and the proposed FY 26 budget again. We'll take two actions this afternoon, one, amending that 25 budget to the projections, and then to approving or recommending 26 proposed budget to city council. Just a quick background on the projections amendment. This is something that is done annually for the entire city budget. That's primarily focused to provide revenue estimates and all the year-to-date budget amendments that's been approved by both board and council. And then we'll take those before council to formally approve those by ordinance. Looking at fiscal year 25, just a couple of quick highlights here. Since we last met, we have received July and August sales tax allocations. July came in at 16% higher than the month's budget, and August at 8% higher. This pushed our year-to-date collections to be about 10% over the year-to-date budget. And that'll bring in roughly $930,000 in revenue over the original budget estimate. So again, some of the other key changes here, we are seeing higher than anticipated interest income on the revenue side. The board did approve one budget amendment so far this year. That was a $3.4 million from fund balance for the Lake Point Park and Civic space that we have planned there. And then the board has made just under $4 million in additional investments from the reserve for opportunities, to include additional fund grant project funding, 3.6 for the full total of the $7 million for Lake Point Green, and then 392,000 additional splash pad funding. Looking at the financial summary here, we can see that our revenues compared to the original budget are coming in just under $1 million compared to the original budget. There's that 3.4 million for the Lake Point Green over the original budget expenditures. That leaves us with an ending fund balance of 13.62 million. After sales tax, we're looking at 12 million available at the end of fiscal year. Well above that cost for the fire of 1.3, setting at just under 10.8 billion in fund balance. So again, just what this amendment captures is, number one, it adjusts the current budget to the projected estimates. Two, captures that additional revenue performance that we're seeing. And three, allows us to move forward with city council for that formal event that I would. With that, I'll take any questions on fiscal year 25. Questions?
I have one.
Yes.
If you would, what's the accrued sales tax, the negative hit on the?
So the sales tax collections are based on sales that occur 2 months prior to when the city receives them. And so when we adopt the budget, we build in an estimate for October and November, but those sales actually came from August and September of the prior fiscal year. So we make an adjustment and accrue the reverse the previous revenues and accrue revenues that we'll see this upcoming October and November back to the.
Okay, so it's an accounting feature.
It's an accounting
no
feature.
money changing.
Much. And that's why we kind of call it out different between the ending fund balance. Here's kind of what we actually have in cash, and here's kind of what's available at the time.
Thanks.
Follow that. So the big variance in the 2 million was because of that difference in the fund balance.
Here, right here.
Yeah.
So this would be additional revenue coupled with the additional expenses for Lake Point. So roughly 2 million with a few adjustments to both the debt service reserve, another accounting thing when they look at that each year, and roughly 70,000 change. We typically see the new sales tax in the next year higher than what it was in the previous year. So it typically inches up a little bit year over year.
Okay.
With that, I'll ask for an action on amending fiscal year 25 projections.
We have a
Motion to approve.
second. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous pass.
All right, moving on now to the proposed budget for fiscal year 26. Just a quick overview of the process, and kind of where we are today. We have met in the past on July 10th with the budget subcommittee. With the full board, we did workshop this on July 16th. So now we'll just wrap up with a review, and then we'll take action on approving that budget recommendation to city council to then be approved on September 16th. On the revenue side, we do have just under 10.2 million in total revenues. 9.5 of that is coming from our sales tax collections next year, just shy of 700,000 in interest income. I did want to just highlight here, the two little red pieces we're pulling out is what we're prior seeing in fiscal year 25 and previous years for the TERS assignments, which is repaying a small portion of the debt that was originally issued for the Becca's Garage to support the conference center in Town Square, as well as some small miscellaneous revenues from the Constellation Field parking lot lease, now going to general fund to support redevelopment program there. So with that, we'll take a quick look at the proposed expenditures again for fiscal year 26. It's just shy of $12 million. With the economic development programming scope, we do have $3.9 million to include their operating budget, incentive sponsorship, and reserve opportunities. Transfers out of 4.2, debt service on SL4B sales tax revenue bonds of 1.7 million, and then 2.1 in capital projects. And that economic development budget in a little more detail. The operating costs here for the program are roughly 527,000. We have 500,000 programming for sponsorships. That'll be 250 for the FIFA and 250 for Town Square events here. Then we have 893 program bid for incentives. That'll include the Town Square phase that we talked about earlier, as well as commercial facade program and the continuation of the First Colony Mall sales tax incentive agreement. Then lastly, we do have programming $2 million for the reserve for opportunities available for use throughout next fiscal year. And touching again on the outstanding debt, this is specifically just the outstanding sales tax revenue bonds. Currently, we have just over 16 million in current outstanding principal scheduled to mature in FY36. This issuance was a refunding and refunded roughly 26 million in 3 prior issues. We have a couple follow-ups on this. I believe at the workshop we had some questions on interest costs were. On the current sales tax revenue bonds are outstanding, it's just over 2.4%. And then on the COs that were recently issued for Imperial, it's just over 4.2% interest on those. And so then we did have a question also on the 2010 refunding that we did. That one comes down to also refunding 2 prior issues going all the way back to early 2000s. Some of those projects that John talked about, the first being the First Colony Mall drainage and parking improvements, the Imperial Park softball complex, and then a land acquisition here and a portion of the construction for the parking garage. Now with that, we also have transfers to other funds. Oops. That should include 1.35 to the general fund. This is going to be those salary reimbursements and cost allocation for the support services that city staff do to support the 4B and those project execution, as well as 2.64 million is going to the general debt service fund. That's going to support the COs that we issued for Imperial, and then 250 that supports civic park programming. And then lastly, on the capital improvement side, we have 2.1 million. It's 1.8 million for the Eldridge Park improvements. I believe we talked about that last, and William covered it in detail at the previous meeting. And then we have 300,000 scheduled for additional fund grant program projects. To the board. We kind of had a financial overview comparing the fiscal year 25 projections to the proposed budget. We're looking at a $270,000 decrease in revenues. Again, that's going to be that TERS 1 assignment and the miscellaneous. Expenditures are $3 million less. Starting off, our plan to start out the fiscal year with roughly 15.6 million in beginning fund balance, with roughly a $1.84 million drawdown on that. After our debt service reserve or our accrued sales tax again, we're looking at an available fund balance of 10.6 million. Again, way above the policy requirement of 1.4, setting at 9.2 million by the end of the fiscal year. I'll take questions on fiscal year 26 for those. Any questions?
Yeah, a couple. So for the reserve for opportunity, any of that 2 million allocated, or is that a blank slate for the next year?
Blank slate.
Blank slate, okay. Follow up. Looks like the marketing budget was increased by 250. That's the marketing for FIFA, correct?
Correct.
Is that a one-time update for this year, or is that projected to go? Not just for FIFA, but the increase, is that expected for future years, or just a one-time thing?
It's a 3-year agreement.
Okay, so that would have implications for 3 years for just that agreement?
Recalling correctly.
Okay.
Allison's in the back saying yes. Do you have any further details on that?
FY 25, 26, and 27, the agreement will be split between 3 years.
Okay.
And that final approval of that agreement comes back before you
On this.
on September 2nd. So again, this is just earmarked until that final approval is made, and if it's not, then it drops off.
And one more follow-up. So then I see the other increase was public relations. What's the breakdown? Maybe that's a better question for the marketing group. But what's the breakdown in what this organization does with the marketing versus what the rest of the Sugar Land City does overall? And then I see that it was just introduced this year. What's the major need for it versus what we've been doing in the past?
So if you're referring, I think, to the additional 250, that's not the FIFA. That will be the 4B picking up the programming that was done here in Sugar Land Town Square that was previously funded by TERS one tax increment revenues here. That's provided by the Town Square Management Association. Reeves is the event program right there.
Oh, was that the public relations charge then, or for the 250?
I believe that's the line that's set in.
Okay, so that's for the events and everything else. That's we're switching over from TERS to this.
It
Okay,
still has to come back to you for.
right,
that.
right. Okay. Yeah, I just want to understand the differences.
Any other questions? You have a proposal?
On my side.
All right, and with that, I'll ask for approving the 4B budget.
Have a motion that we approve it. Second. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Justin. We're still very healthy. That's what that does. So they're still healthy. And we'll now move on to the department report from this thing is too. Yeah.
So Devin was gonna do it, but I'm gonna do it. You'll find out why in a few slides. Okay, so just as a reminder for our new board members, this is the director's report is a report out, so you can't ask questions. However, there are staff here from many departments that are available for questions afterwards should you have any. This is just a way for us to showcase not only what redevelopment does, which is primarily funded by 4B, but also shed light on some of the things that our economic development, like business development and tourism teams are doing, because we all work together, we all collaborate, all of our efforts are in alignment. So first for business development. So we had Plug and Play Selection Day took place on August 13th. They featured over 15 groundbreaking startups. Plug and Play featured one-on-one meetings with each of them, which gave valuable insights into their interests and needs. And then Plug and Play, it's a very important initiative related to business attraction and development. It's paid for out of SLDC, so type A, but we ultimately get like a front row seat to potential business leads that the business development team can then pitch to try to get to bring into Sugar Land. So it's like a pipeline that we're creating. So it's a really cool project. If you ever have an opportunity to go to the events, I recommend you do so. For tourism, the tourism and sports study kicked off. I know some of you attended some of these in-person sessions, so thank you for that. There were five in-person focus groups. We did site visits to some of our top parks, Imperial City Park, Imperial Park, to kind of showcase what some of our venues and attractions look like firsthand. This was done in collaboration with tourism and also the Parks Department. And so a lot of work went into this. Our next steps will be the community virtual focus group on August 27th. And then there's a resident and visitor survey that'll be going out to gain more insights and a broader reach from the larger masses to factor into this study. So the World Cup press conference. So as you know, Allison has brought forward the first look at the FIFA agreement. In preparation for and pending approval of the agreement, there is a press conference that needs to happen to announce that partnership. So right now it's tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, September 3rd. So we just want you to save the date. It'll be at 10 a.m. at the Sugar Land Regional Airport. We would love to have 4B representation because we are funding some of that sponsorship upon your approval. But we will send some reminders out leading up to this as well. And then another tourism update, part of our Visit Sugar Land marketing strategy is we partner with influencers. And the reason we do this is because that allows us to reach a broader audience, whether they're younger, foodies, people that just wouldn't probably typically follow Sugarland or think that we have something that might offer to them. So this was arranged through our PR group, Blue Hammond. We had Black Hiking Queen come and visit Sugarland while she was here. She visited 8 local restaurants, no chains. She hiked 3 parks, visited Town Square, and even experienced zip lining at Go 8. Her highlight reel garnered more than 10,000 views. And you can see a full recap on the website, on the Visit Sugarland website. And as you can see, there were some great impressions and garnered some great follows on it as well. And then on to redevelopment. So just an update on Lake Point. The demolition is still expected to start late September, early October. They're basically just comparing bids at this point, trying to get the lowest bid, and then they'll get that going. We have worked with business development to connect surrounding businesses to the Lubbock Group. So like Courtyard, Hyatt, Hope Bio. So they have a direct line of contact when that construction does start. So they know who they can reach out to. If there's anybody else that needs that contact, please let us know. We've been sending updates out through the email listserv that Emily mentioned, next door, our HOA contacts, keeping them up to speed on when demolition and any updates are available. At this time, there's no traffic impacts anticipated, but we will update that and keep everybody abreast if that does change. Right now, the expectation is to kind of take down a building at a time. So they'll kind of move around the site. It'll all be fenced in, blocked off, and there's no major explosion. And so it's going to be pretty low key, unfortunately. I was really wanting a big implode, but which wasn't granted. And then if all goes well, the demolition gets done. This is obviously the first step of getting this site flipped, and then construction on the actual development could begin as early as summer 2026. So on August 7th, we sponsored the Houston Commercial Real Estate Awards, which was hosted by Red News. This brought together hundreds of industry professionals, brokers, developers, business owners who transform Houston's real estate. It was a really great event, and our director, Devin, was honored to be one of the finalists recognized for Economic Developer of the Year. Shockingly, she didn't want to announce herself, so I'm going to do that. So it was a great event. We got to go and celebrate her. We even got Jim out there. There is photo proof. And so we got to also cheer on Talyard. Talyard, our local brewery, won the award for retail restaurant category. It was a design category, and they actually beat out some really great Houston restaurants. So it really exciting there. And again, this is just a great opportunity to spread the word of all the awesome things happening here with an esteemed group of real estate professionals. But there's more. As of Monday, Devin was announced as one of the 90 women who mean business people honored by the Houston Business Journal. So she was selected, honored with a big group of amazing women. There's a video. I won't kill Devin by playing with this video, but we will send it to you after the meeting. But it's an amazing award that she was honored for. And some of the people that she's up against are really big names in the Houston region. And so we've created a reel that we've put on LinkedIn, this video kind of explaining how Devin got into her economic development career. We're going to be sharing it on the city's social channels next week. And then she'll be formally recognized in October at an event. And then there will also be a big write-up in HBJ in October on the winners. And so these accolades not only give staff the recognition that they deserve from all the hard work, but every time we get an accolade or we sponsor an event or we attend an event, developers, brokers, they reach out to us because they're like, what's Sugarland doing? How do I get involved? You guys are everywhere. I had someone say, you guys are always in the news. And I said, thank you. That's the point. That's what we want to do, right? We want you to know what we're doing. And so we're going to continue to keep putting our name out there and submitting us for things and sponsoring things where it makes sense. But I just want to say congratulations to Devin, and truly deserved. And can't wait to get some more.
It's a great place where they stopped the video too.
Yeah, right? We fixed that, but no. And then so just so you guys know, the new website did launch. This was an effort between economic development and tourism and redevelopment. So Visit Sugarland has a new website that they launched, and then also the economic development one. So it has an updated look. It has a much cleaner navigation if you looked at this one compared to the last one. It has interactive maps, major employers. We even added a page larger for the board presence. Your lovely faces are now on our webpage. And so it's a lot more user-friendly, a lot more interactive. And so if you haven't checked it out, please do. And then just a reminder, this report out is always meant for high-level big updates, but if you want to see what we're doing day to day, that's going to be on our LinkedIn. We post 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes more, depending if we have it. So please follow us. And then if you have any questions of what we're doing, we're always here to help. And then just a reminder for those of you who still need to get your headshots taken, you're going to meet Emily in the lobby after this. And then if you have any questions that staff can answer pertaining to anything, just please let us know. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah, awesome. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.